Hello and welcome to Wellbeing Centre Wales. We're going to do a series here on student survival. So we're going to have a week of student survival, and between us we've got a lot of experience in this. My name is Mike and I'm a life coach and hippie dad, but no hair, as you can tell. And this is...
I'm Meg, I'm Mike's daughter, and I'm a third year music student, so I've got lots of student experience.
Well, that was very university challenge, wasn't it? Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to go through a series this week, and some of the topics that we're covering are, we're going to go through stuff about money, what to do when the money comes in, and how to keep as much as possible and not pay a lot of interest on debt and stuff like that. And Beck, what else are we doing?
We'll be giving some kind of tips of things that are good to bring along to uni that really helped me, and we're also going to be giving a cooking lesson one day this week with some kind of basic guide on how to do some dishes, and we've got some fun stuff in store. Excellent,
so it should be fun. So check out all the other videos, like and subscribe this, and give us a thumbs up because we need all the encouragement we can get. And stay tuned for some fun. Take it easy. Ta-da!
Bye!
Hello again. So, welcome back. I'm Mike and...
I'm Meg.
And today we got the exciting topic of debt and money out. Now, how exciting does that sound? Boo, humbug. But luckily, we've got a very good friend of mine and a financial expert, and he's going to explain all about credit cards and how they work and stuff like that. And to be honest, this is something I wish I knew a long time ago. In fact, I wish I knew this when I had hair. That's how long ago I wish I knew this stuff. And his name's Dan, and he's lovely. But so what we're going to cover in this section, or this part of our series, is we're talking about the all sorts of debt, and Meg is going to lighten it up and talk about the day-to-day expenses. Is that right, Meg?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. So we'll be covering between the three of us, because Dan's included, we'll be covering things like overdraft and credit card debt and loans and is there, what sort of other stuff do you think? Is there any other debt that you could think of?
I mean, there's student loans.
Student loans.
But yeah, so most people have that, but we'll talk about that.
Yeah, we'll talk about that as well. So what I'd like to do, I'd like to introduce a very good friend of mine and somebody who's a highly respected professional financial person. It's Dan, and we'll hand you over to Dan now, and he'll explain all about credit cards and the type of trouble you get in there, maybe the debt, how that works, how it builds up. And over to you, Dan. So if you can explain that would be fantastic.
Hello, thanks Mike, thanks Meg. Yeah, hopefully I can shed a bit more light onto credit cards and the perils that lie therein, especially as now I've been labelled as a highly respected financial person. So there we are. Anyway, I'm coming to you by satellite link up from my office here in Pontyclun. And yeah, credit cards. I'm going to start off with telling you the difference between credit cards and debit cards, because a lot of people might not even know that there's a difference between the two. Now, hopefully, Meg, who's the technology whiz, will be able to put up on the screen any second now a little slide I've put with some bullet points on, and about what a debit card is. Now, a debit card is a card which is normally issued by your bank or your building society when you open your current account, which is the main account your money comes in and out of, and it's directly linked to that, so you can access your money without actually having to carry cash with you. Again, most of you possibly already know this, but you can usually use this card to withdraw money from the hole in the wall, from ATMs and that sort of cash points. That's usually free of charge, because your bank will very, very rarely make a charge for doing that, especially in the UK. If you're travelling abroad, maybe they will, but if we talk about the UK, there's no charge for doing that. The cash machine provider, however, might make a charge for doing that. So if you go to a machine, quite often they're labelled link or machines, they will tell you they're going to charge you £2.50, £3.50 for taking your own money out. That's not a charge by your bank, it's a charge by the person who owns that cash machine. So be careful about that. And if in any doubt, just go along to any bank. Normally, if you've got a card issued by one of the main high street banks, you can use it in anybody's machine. So you can do that for free, and you can money which you take out is withdrawn almost immediately from your available balance. So that's money you've already got in your bank account, or if you're overdrawn, or if you have an overdraft facility, you can take that money out as well immediately, still with no direct charges from taking that money out. It might not show that you've taken the money out immediately on your app or online banking, or even on the balance which is shown to you on those cash point machines. So bear in mind that it might affect your available balance, which is the amount you can touch, more quickly than it affects the balance that you're shown. So most banks now, they'll have a pending transactions list. But anyway, that's a debit card. So that's you're taking money out of your own bank account. With the credit card, however, they're so completely separate to your main bank account. It might be issued by the bank who you've got your current account with, but it will still be a completely separate pot, a different sort of account held with them. Now, these can be interest-free. So if you use it to buy, a pair of shoes on the 1st of June, and then you get your statement on the 15th of June, and you pay that in full immediately, quite regularly, there's no charge at all. So that's good. There's no interest, and it can be really handy if you want to use it just to get you up to payday. And then you clear your statement when you get your monthly pay in, or perhaps your next advance from the student loan or grants. Now that's great, and if used responsibly, they can be fantastic, and they can come with benefits as well, in that you'll quite often be able to build up points or cash back, and build up your credit rating if they're used responsibly. So again, hopefully these slides on the screen have got this information in front of you as well. Now, they can be used to withdraw cash from ATMs or cash points as well, the hole in the wall. But normally, rather than give you any interest-free period, if you use your credit card to take money out of the hole in the wall, there's a higher rate of interest than would be charged on purchase, and that's charged immediately, not from the end of your next statement date. And doing that can harm your credit rating as well, because what banks would believe you're doing is taking the money out from your credit card because you haven't got any money left in your current account. So generally, if you do have funds available in your current account, the debit card is the best way to go, and the credit card is best used just for purchases, and if it's a real emergency, you can use it to access cash, but certainly I'd advise against doing that at all if you can avoid it, but no more than is absolutely necessary. Now, hopefully now you're back with me and you can see me, and hello. We're going to move on now to another slide in a second, which is about the cost of these credit cards, because borrowing a reasonably small amount of money, it's astonishing how much this can cost you, which is why you'll find that banks and all the credit card providers, people like MBNA, Barclaycard, and the big high street banks like Halifax and Nationwide, NatWest, they'll be keen for you to have these cards because they make a lot of money from them. And also it ties you in then with them as a customer longer term, because they'll want your business, and of course banks are a business, they want to make profit. So if Meg can pop this slide up now, the cost of credit cards, you should be able to see on your screen now. I've based these on borrowing £2,000. So let's just say through your first year in university, or through this current year in university, whichever one that might be, you borrowed £2,000 on your credit card. So we'll ignore any cost of building it up, and let's just say you've got a credit card with a £2,000 balance on. And let's say the APR on that is 18.9%, because that's a fairly typical interest rate for a credit card. Then rather than making the minimum monthly payment, which would really stretch this debt out over years and years and years, let's say you think, right, the minimum payment on this card is £30 a month. I'm going to make that every single month. So if you did that and you pay your £30 and you don't let that reduce down as the balance reduces down, you just pay 30 quid, it's going to take you 20 years and a month, so just over 20 years to repay £2,000. And the interest you'll be paying on that will be £5,204. So you can see that figure in the brackets there, 7,204. That's what it would cost to repay that. So if you're thinking, I fancy a holiday and it's going to cost you £2,000, I'll pop it on a credit card and get it paid off over the next few months in 30 quid. It's not going to be the next few months, it's going to be 20 years, and it's going to cost you £7,000 for that holiday, over £7,000. If though you think, I want to get it paid off a bit quicker, you can see now the next step down, for just an extra £10 a month, you're reducing the term it takes to repay that down from just over 20 years to 7.5 years. So it's a massive difference for an extra tenner a month. So do definitely increase these payments to as much as you can when you're trying to clear a credit card, because that knocks your interest down from 5,200 to 1,500. Now that means that £2,000 is costing you £3,595 rather than £7,204, which is a fairly significant saving. Now, if we move down then to £100 a month, so you're paying them £100 a month, which is a fair chunk out of your monthly income, or of your available cash. You can get that paid off in 2 years. It's still costing you £380 though, so that's £2,380 you're paying back just for having taken £2,000 out. That's not too bad, but can you afford to pay the £100 a month? Now, if you're using it for a holiday now and you can afford to pay off £200 a month, that's not too bad at all, because you can have the holiday, it's costing you £177, but do you have £200 to pay every single month and get that cleared? So one thing which quite a few people have thought about doing in the past, and we still do, is transferring that balance across to a 0% interest card, because then you're not paying any interest, which is great. So then if you pay £200 a month and you can afford to do that, there's no interest to pay. So that £2,000 is costing you £2,000, or so you'd think. Because if you do transfer that balance from the card you've got today, you get a nice offer through the post or through an email saying transfer your balances now, 0% for 12 months, which is about how long they generally last. Some are much longer, some are much shorter. They can charge you up to 5% or so typically in fees for doing that. So when you transfer that balance of £2,000, you've turned your £2,000 into 2,100. So even interest-free can have hidden fees and charges. But anyway, hopefully that's sort of explained a bit. That slide, by the way, Meg, can now whoosh off again. And with any luck, that's been helpful. And yeah, just be really careful with credit cards. They can be fantastic. Build up your credit rating. The best way of using them is use them for small purchases, perhaps putting a tank of petrol in the car, that kind of thing, and get them cleared off at the end of the month. And if you can't clear it off in 1 month, clear it off as quickly as you can do. Hope that was useful. Back over to you, Mike and Meg. TTFN.
Oh, that's brilliant. Thanks, Dan. That's covered a lot of stuff, and I can't believe I learned even more there. That's brilliant, isn't it?
Excellent advice.
And I like the way that Dan just explains something very down to earth, very straightforward, absolutely brilliant. Thank you. And the way we're going to move forward here is I'm going to talk about the effect of debt and how that affects your life and so on. And then Meg's going to talk about the day-to-day stuff of being a student and all that kind of cool stuff. So the thing about debt is it's like a trap. It's very, very easy to get into, and it's a bit of a struggle to get out of. But eventually, most people make mistakes and get into debt. And if you do it when you're younger and you don't have the tools or the finances or the family help or whatever the situation is to get out of that debt, it follows you around like an angry dog. And it affects most things in your life. And the choices that you can make in university, whether trips or whatever, and clothes and things like this, or after you've left, all this stuff has to be taken into account. And I know that at the moment you would be maybe looking at the best bank accounts and the overdrafts and things like this. So what I'll do now, I'll just be quiet for a while, which is very difficult for me, but I'll be quiet for a while, and I'll let Meg talk to me about the student side of things.
Great, so I touched on it, student bank accounts, a little bit in yesterday's video about money coming in, so go and watch that if you haven't already. But so when you sign up for a student bank account, it's really important to shop around because you get different free things. And one of the things that they advertise is how much free overdraft you get. So some of them advertise that you get up to 3,000 free overdraft where you not make there's no interest on it. And this is something that I think as a student is quite I sometimes find it quite hard because so I've signed up with Santander. They offer a free rail card. It's something that for me is very important. And you look at your balance on your online banking, and it'll say, so say you have £100 in your bank account. Instead of saying £100, it says you have £1,600, which is like, whoa, I have £1,600? What? Because that's how they advertise, that's how they kind of show it. But it's not, obviously that's your overdraft. You have just £100, which seems obvious, but I think it makes it confusing. And I think it's tempting then because say you only have like £10 left or something. If you glance at it quickly, it might seem like you've got loads of money left, and I think that's where it gets a little bit difficult and confusing. And I think them not offering interest, you think like, oh, it's fine, I'll pay it back next month. But Dad's going to explain a bit, I think, the trappings of that, about kind of going into it and the negative things that can happen. And I'll talk a bit later about how that's negatively affected some people I know as an example.
Excellent. Okay. So when you get your student overdraft and the bank account and everything's set up and the money goes in, if you've got in your example, or let's say again, you know, the overdraft is £1,000 and you've got 20 quid in, so you know it makes you think you've got 1,020. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay, I can see how that would be.
Especially, sorry to interrupt you, if student loans just come in and say you've got £2,000 student loan come in, it's more confusing then as well, because if you only have £10 it's more obvious, but then it looks like you have 3,000, so you might section it off differently.
Yeah, brilliant. Yeah. Very good tip. Very good tip. So be aware of that. But I think another thing that people choose their bank accounts from is the freebies, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So what sort of freebies are normally offered?
So as I mentioned, you can get a rail card. That's the option I went for. I think one of them, I'm not sure which bank used to. So this is when I signed up a couple of years ago. They offer you Amazon vouchers. You can get kind of a coach card from National Express. There's all sorts of free stuff, and that's why it's definitely worth not going with your current, like your account you might have at the moment is with, because you can get great stuff and there might be one that's better for you. And another tip I would say is actually have a look at what's close to where you are this year. So my bank account was really close to my halls in first year, which is just helpful because it meant you don't have to take the bus all the way into town or whatever the situation is straight away. So I think that's also something to consider when you're choosing them.
Oh, that's a very good tip. Very good tip. So I suppose it would be straightforward, but to find out with the local branches.
Yeah, if you just if you know what halls you're in, or if you say you've got campus university, if you're in a city centre, it's not such a concern. But if you have a campus university, just look at the postcode, type it in, and then type HSBC or Santander, and have a look what the kind of nearest ones are. And if it's like, you know, a 40-minute bus ride, think, is that quite a faff if I want to pay in cash, or I want to take money out, for example, you know. So I think that's something to look at. It's quite easy to find, I'm sure. Excellent.
Okay. So I'm going to talk a little about money, and I help a lot of people. And one of the things that keeps coming up with the people I help is the financial side of life. And what I try and do is, so if somebody's like overspending in particular, then what I try and get them to do is to visualize whatever it is that they're thinking of buying. And one person who was quite easy was a kayak. So I don't think I'd fit in a kayak, but it was a kayak, and how much it is and what a bargain it is because it's in the sale. And what I said to them was that how long do you have to work to get the money for the kayak? So forget about all the interest-free stuff. So this is how much it costs, and you can downsize that. You can say it's a pair of shoes or trainers or whatever. So you could say, okay, well, if I'm working so that's how much the thing costs. This is how much I can earn in, let's say, an hour, and so therefore it would take me the equivalent of 3 days to save the money to buy that item. And so it just gets you to think about spending your money more, because if somebody was to say to you, if money was abolished and you had to actually swap your time for it, and somebody said, yes, you can have this item, but I need 3 days of your life, 3 days of your working life, or 3 days, you know, where you've got to do this task, and at the end of the task, instead of getting money, you get this item. We start thinking about things more, and we start thinking, do I really need that? Is it so important? Because the brilliant thing about this is, even if you think, but Mike, it's in a sale, you know, it was 100 quid, now it's 50 quid. Yeah, I'm saving 50 quid. That's the mentality a lot of people fall into, but you're not. It's still that the price now is 50 quid. So, you know, so forget the fact that it used to be that, and now it's this. Forget that. You have to focus on what it is. What is it that you're spending on that item? And it's worth it. And of course it is. I'm not saying, you know, don't enjoy your life, don't have good stuff. Enjoy your life and have good stuff. And then, you know, be in a position where you can comfortably afford it. And so why am I talking about this on a student vid? Because at some point you'll be thinking about, but I'd really like to have that. But in comparison, if you have to swap that, maybe not for your time, because if you decided not to get a job, then what you go without to have that thing, and does it sort of balance out? Like, should I have that one takeaway meal, or should I, you know, take out half my shopping budget just for that thing? So the thing about debt is, it's not some sort of monstrous thing. It's just something that we get into bit by bit. And most people are going to leave with debt anyway. The student debt, student loan, and so most people will have that anyway. And there's all sorts of stuff about that. And I'm not going to talk about that because, to be honest, I don't know enough about that. What I do know is the effect that debt has on people and how it limits one's choices in life as we're moving forward. So that's all very depressing and dad talk, I know, but there we are. So now there's ways to help you not fall into that trap. We heard from Dan earlier, brilliant advice, brilliant information. Thanks, Dan. And now Meg's going to tell you about the practicalities and the day-to-day stuff and some of the stuff she did, which helped.
Yes, definitely. So one of the main things for me in the beginning, when I was thinking about my budgeting, was I decided to, although I get my money in monthly, in my head work out how much I have per week. So because weekly I do my food shopping, I spend X amount on doing my laundry. If you're in halls, you likely have like to pay as you go with the laundry. So you have kind of, I had weekly expenses. So say you have, say £50 for a week, that's just an easy figure to work out. And you might, so you know, every week £20 might go on your food shop, for example, and you might need £5 for washing. So it's really important to not think, oh, I've got £50 this week, but think, okay, those are the two things that I have to do and my money has to go. So really you have £25 that week. So you might decide, okay, that's my one takeaway, or that's a night out, or that's 2 trips to the pub, whatever. But it's really important to subtract the things out of your budget first that you have to do, and then look at kind of what's left. This is after you've taken, if you watched yesterday's video, after you've taken the 5 and the 10% out, that's what I did, and having a look at what's left over. Because say on a Monday, you think, oh, great, I've got 50 quid this week, I'm going on 3 nights out, and then suddenly it's Thursday morning, you look in your fridge and you've got no food and you're eating beans all weekend. That's not a situation you want to get into. And something that's helped me with that is actually planning my meals. So save kind of, because for me, the main time I would get a takeaway or buy food on campus is because I haven't planned, and I can't be bothered to say go home and cook a meal, and that's the situation that I would pay for food normally. So every week, it might sound a bit sad, but I sit down with a notepad and I plan, okay, so Monday night I have a society, so I want something quick, so I'll eat something that I've already prepared, so I'll have that. And then Tuesday, I've got lots of time on Tuesday, so I can cook a meal for the next 3 nights or something. And actually planning your food, I think breaking your money and your meals down small really helps you to get in your head, especially in the beginning when you're not 100% sure on costs of things. Really helps your money to stretch as far as you can. And there's no reason either why, as a student, you should be, there's a stereotype that students have no money and everybody's really poor. There's no reason why that should be your life at all. As long as you just take a bit of planning and a bit of care over it, I think you can do everything you want.
Excellent, good advice. Now, all this is absolutely brilliant stuff, and it makes it sound like everything is wonderful and well organised and structured, but life isn't like that.
No, it's not.
So it's up to you. You can choose to share or not share. Do you want to just cover a mistake that you made?
Yeah, so a mistake, well, so I've made many mistakes, but because we were talking about overdraft, I'm just going to mention kind of somebody I know that I've kind of seen the negative effects of an overdraft happen to, first of all. And so it'd probably be quite a common thing, wouldn't it? A very common thing. I know actually lots of people who've had this. I think it's very easy to do. Is that, so if you don't kind of budget out and you have this fat thing of student loan, and then you come to the end of your term and you're thinking, I literally have no money left. So you think, okay, I have to go into my overdraft. And in your head you're thinking, oh well, it's okay, so I'm getting my student loan back in a month, so I'll go £100 into my overdraft and it can fill it, for example. But then you go £100 in, but you don't have then the £100. It's not like it's £100 that you lose, really. It's not like you're getting free money. This is a concept that I think it seems easy to grasp, but it isn't always. Is that, say you get to the end of the month and you have £100 in your overdraft and you're getting £200 the next month, you suddenly only have £100 the next month, and your money then has to stretch even further, and then you might get say more into your overdraft because your money barely fills the money, or so I think that's something that's very common. And then all of a sudden, you know, you're deep in it. Or it could even be that it's not your spending, it could be that you're spending normally and then you sign for a house and it's a £500 house deposit, and that puts you £500 into your overdraft because you haven't planned for that. And I think that's a very common mistake, and then it takes you a while to claw back out of that. But I mean, it's never the end, I would say. I never feel kind of hopeless. I chat to people about, you know, if you're feeling a bit overwhelmed with money, chat to whether that's your parents, your friends, people in uni. There's enabling services normally, always kind of, and it's never too late. And I think with budgeting and taking your time and maybe just being a bit more careful and maybe picking up some extra hours if you're working or something like that, you can always get out of the hole. But it's just making sure early on that you think, okay, I can't let this go any further. That's what I would say.
That's absolutely brilliant. I like that. I like that. I like the fact that if you are feeling the strain financially and you may have made some mistakes and you may be banging on the end of the overdraft and just scrabbling around to try and borrow a bit of money off people or whatever. So it doesn't matter what the financial situation that you find yourself in, then seek help and guidance. Was that basically?
That was it. Yeah.
So seek help and guidance, and just a little something for you. If ever you find yourself thinking, I don't know what to do, then just change the words slightly and think, okay, what can I do? And then it's something I've helped loads of people with. So lots of people at the end, all ages, not just students, all ages. So if something happens in your life and think, oh, this is happening, I just don't know what to do, then just take a breath, take a moment and think, okay, what can I do? And start with what can you do? And the answer to what can I do is never nothing, And if you don't know the answer to the problem you're in, find somebody that could find the solution for you or help you find the solution. So brilliant advice, Meg. If you find overwhelmed by the responsibility, overwhelmed by other things, seek advice. Find someone you trust. Find someone you can talk to, and that's going to be a wonderful thing. And even though I talked a bit about debt and follows you around and stuff like that, do what you can to minimize that. But if you find you've made mistakes, and you know, and if somebody was going to put their hand up to make mistakes, both my hands up, and you know, then we make mistakes. Such is life. But the thing to remember is there's always a way out, and sometimes the way out takes longer, sometimes the way out is shorter, but there's always a way out, there's always a comeback. And nobody expects you to do and know everything in life. It isn't like that. We are people, we do stuff, we make mistakes, we get stuff right, and then hopefully we just simply learn as we go along. And the most important thing I wanted to take from this, these are just guidelines, and hopefully it's going to help you. And if you follow the guidelines, you'll have a richer experience. I'm not just talking about money. You'll be able to do things, you'll be more relaxed about stuff, you'll be able to make clearer decisions. You're not forced into situations or jobs that you detest but have to stay in because it pays them, you know, whatever it is that you need paying. And so the whole thing is enjoy life as much as possible, but take some responsibility, would you say?
I would completely agree with that. I think you've summed it up very well.
Okay, brilliant. So it's towards the end. Is there anything you want to cover before we move on to tips?
No, I think that's everything. I think we've said kind of everything that needs to be covered, which is that, you know, you can live a very easy, financially balanced life as long as you're careful. And if you do slip up, it's not the end. And often I think in uni, it's easy to feel lonely, especially in the beginning, because you're away from home and, you know, you might not be that close to your friends yet that you feel like you can chat about it, but you're never alone. You can always chat to somebody and never feel like that. So that would be just
brilliant. And if you, I just want to jump back to the advice thing a minute. If you don't feel, for whatever reason, you don't feel you can talk to your parents or guardians or whatever the correct term is, then the people looking after you and so on, then find somebody you can. And sometimes it's easier to talk to a stranger. So there's Citizens Advice Bureau, there's all sorts of stuff. And so whatever your financial situation, whatever position you find yourself in, and hopefully it's going to be a really good one, remember the skills that you're learning now are going to carry you through the rest of your life. Uni days will come to an end, then at some point there'll be work days, and then you may or may not have a family, depends on what you want to do. You may or may not buy a house, you may or may not, travel the world. So but you have more options by not having the debt. And so talk to someone, get advice, and remember there's always someone who will listen. And that's pretty much it. So Meg, we have gone back and forth on the tips. So what's your tip, Meg?
So my tip is going to be, it's something I've said a lot today, is just going to be ask for help if you need it. I think I'm just going to keep it short because there is always people who will be willing to help you.
You just pinched my tip.
Oh, sorry.
No, that's okay. That's my tip. No. Well, look, it's a brilliant thing that we've both given you the same tip, the same advice. So you got hippie dad giving you some advice. You got co-student giving you the same advice, which is if you find yourself in a pickle, then just simply seek help, seek advice, and just get on with stuff and enjoy the rest of whatever it is that you're doing.
Don't be scared either, because it's not a scary thing. Like, don't think, oh my God, there's all these things that are easy to do. Just trust yourself and you'll be fine, and you'll learn it along the way, and you might make some mistakes, but that's fine. And
that's what life's about. It's just learning stuff and just making mistakes, learning from mistakes, and not making them more than 3 times, hopefully. So have a wonderful time, and it's tomorrow. Yeah, if you're watching this the first week, it's tomorrow, and if not, play the next one, 'cause it's really exciting. And give us a thumbs up on this video now, because we need that. And drop a comment in. Give us some comment, give us some feedback, because that'll be nice for them.
Yeah, and any tips you have, if you're a current student, an ex-student, or again, like I said yesterday, any questions you have, if you're coming into uni, let us know, because we'd love to chat to you.
We'd love to chat to you, or we'd love the feedback. Take it easy. Ta-ra.